The galaxy had forgotten about humans. 300 years had passed since the last human died. At least, that was what everyone believed. The great alien races had divided up Earth and its colonies like a meal among hungry guests. The Vellani, with their hard shells and many eyes, took the mining worlds. The Morth, who breathed water and moved like flowing silk, claimed the ocean planets. The Shard Collective, beings made of living crystal, wanted only the asteroid belts and their endless minerals. Humanity became a story told to frighten children. A warning about a species that grew too fast and fought too hard. The aliens called it the Great Cull, and they spoke of it with satisfaction. The dangerous humans were gone. The galaxy was safe. On a small mining moon called Keth 7, a Vellani dig team worked deep underground. They were looking for rare metals, nothing more. The tunnels were dark and cold, and the workers complained about the long shifts and bad food. Foreman Thriss clicked his mandibles with annoyance as one of his workers came running toward him. The young Vellani was making excited sounds, his antenna waving wildly. "Slow down," Thriss ordered. "What is it?" "We found something," the worker said. "A structure. Underground. It is not natural." Thriss followed the worker through narrow tunnels until they reached a massive metal door. It was covered in strange symbols that no one recognized. The metal was old, but still strong. Someone had built this place to last. "Cut through it," Thriss commanded Dodd. Took 3 hours to break the seal. When the door finally opened, cold air rushed out like the breath of a sleeping giant. Thriss stepped inside and stopped. The chamber was huge. Rows and rows of glass pods stretched into the darkness, more than he could count. Each pod was connected to machines that had long since died. Inside the pods were shapes, bodies, human bodies. "By the stars," Thriss whispered. He walked between the rows, his many eyes studying the dead faces behind the glass. Humans. Thousands of them. They had hidden here, hoping to survive the end of their species. They had failed. The power systems had died long ago, and the sleepers had died with them. But then Thriss saw something that made his heart stop. One pod was different. One pod still had lights blinking on its surface. One pod still hummed with power. He approached slowly, afraid of what he might find. Through the frosted glass, he saw a human face, male, young, but not too young. There were scars on his jaw and forehead. His eyes were closed, but his chest moved slightly. He was breathing. Thriss checked the pod's display. The words were in human language, but his translator could read them. Name, Park Do-hyun. Rank, Sergeant. Status, stable. Time in stasis, 312 years. The last human in the galaxy was alive. Thriss immediately sent a message to the Galactic Concordat, the council that ruled the known worlds. Within hours, ships arrived. Scientists, soldiers, politicians, all came to see the impossible human. They argued about what to do. Some wanted to kill him immediately. Humans were dangerous, they said. Even one was too many. Others wanted to study him. Humans had been so different from all other species. Here was a chance to understand why. A few, very quietly, talked about using him as a weapon. While they argued, they woke him up. Park Do-hyun opened his eyes for the first time in 3 centuries. The light was too bright. The sounds were wrong. The faces looking down at him were not human faces. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry and his muscles were weak. The aliens poked him with instruments and spoke in languages he did not understand. They treated him like an animal in a cage. But Do-hyun was a soldier. He had trained his mind as well as his body. Even in confusion and pain, he watched everything. He noticed which aliens gave orders and which ones followed. He saw the weapons they carried and how they moved. He memorized faces in those first moments of waking. Diane understood something important. He was alone. His species was gone. The creatures around him had the power to kill him whenever they wanted, but they had not killed him yet. That meant they wanted something from him. And that meant he had value. And value could be used. The scientists moved him to a medical facility. They gave him food and water. They attached machines to his body to measure his health. They asked him questions through a translation device. Simple questions at first. What is your name? Where were you born? What year do you remember? Do-yoon answered honestly. There was no point in lying about such things. But he also asked questions of his own. What happened to Earth? How long was I asleep? Where are the other humans? The aliens exchanged looks when he asked these questions. Finally, a Morris scientist, a creature with blue skin and large dark eyes, told him the truth. Earth was conquered. The colonies were destroyed. The humans were all dead. You are the last one, she said. You are alone. Do-hyun was quiet for a long time. The aliens probably thought he was in shock. Maybe they expected him to cry or scream or beg. Instead, he nodded slowly and asked, "May I have more water, please?" The aliens did not understand what they were looking at. They saw a broken man, the last survivor of a dead race. They thought he would be easy to control. They were wrong. Behind his calm face, Do-hyun was already thinking, planning, calculating. He was a sergeant of the Korean Special Forces. He had survived things that would break most men. He had been trained to fight when all hope was lost. The galaxy had forgotten what humans were capable of. They had forgotten why they feared humanity in the first place. Park Do-hyun would remind them. The Concordat Council assigned a handler to watch over the last human. Her name was Velith, and she was young for a Morith diplomat. She had studied dead civilizations her whole career, and now she had a living specimen to observe. She expected Do-hyun to be broken. She expected nightmares, depression, and anger. She expected a creature that would need constant care and supervision. What she got was something else entirely. Do-hyun was polite. He followed every rule. He ate what they gave him. He slept when they told him to sleep. He answered every question with patience and clarity. He smiled at his guards and thanked the scientist who studied him. Within 2 months, he was learning the Villani trade language. Within 4 months, he could hold basic conversations in Morith. By the 6th month, he spoke 3 galactic languages well enough to need no translator. The scientists were amazed. They had never seen any species learn so quickly. They wrote papers about human brain structure and adaptability. They congratulated themselves on their fascinating discovery. Velith was not amazed. She was worried that she watched Do-hyun when he did not know she was watching. She saw how his eyes moved, always scanning, always measuring. She noticed how he counted the guards during shift changes. She observed how he tested boundaries, pushing a little here, retreating a little there, always learning what was allowed. One day, she decided to test him. She sat across from him in his small room and asked, "Do you hate us?" Do-hyun looked at her with calm eyes. "Why would I hate you? We conquered your world. We killed your people. You are a prisoner." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I do not know enough yet to hate or not hate. I am still learning." This answer scared Velith more than anger would have. An angry prisoner was predictable. A patient one was dangerous. The months passed. Do-hyun asked many questions about galactic history, and the scientists were happy to answer. They thought he was simply curious. They did not realize he was gathering intelligence. Slowly, he learned the truth about what happened to humanity. The Great Cull was not a natural disaster. It was not an accident. The elder races of the galaxy had watched humanity spread across the stars, and they had grown afraid. Humans bred too fast. They adapted too quickly. They fought with a fierceness that no other species could match. Worst of all, they could cooperate and compete at the same time. They built alliances and broke them. They made peace and made war. They were chaos given flesh, so the Concordat's ancestors had made a decision. They created a virus that targeted only human biology. They launched surprise attacks on human colonies. They bombed civilian cities and military bases alike. Within 50 years, humanity was reduced from billions to thousands. Within 100 years, the thousands became hundreds. Within 200 years, there was no one left, or so they thought. Do-Hyun learned all of this. He learned which races had voted for the coal. He learned which ones had carried it out. He learned the names of the commanders and the scientists who had designed the virus. He did not show any reaction. He simply filed the information away in his mind, adding it to the growing picture of his enemy. Velith continued to observe him. She saw him exercise in his small room, keeping his body strong. She saw him meditate, keeping his mind sharp. She saw him practice language skills for hours, never complaining about the difficulty. One night, she came to his room and found him looking out the small window at the stars. "What do you think about when you look out there?" she asked. "Home," he said. "I think about home. Earth is very different now. The aliens have mined it for resources. The cities are ruins. I know. Does that make you sad?" Do-Hyun turned to look at her. For just a moment, Velith saw something in his eyes. It was not sadness. It was not anger. It was something colder and deeper. Something that made her heart beat faster. Then a moment passed, and he smiled his gentle smile. "Of course it makes me sad. I am the last of my kind. How could I not be sad?" Velith reported her concerns to the Concordat Council. She told them that the human was not what he appeared to be. She said that his cooperation was a mask, his patience a weapon. She warned them that they were making a mistake by underestimating him. The council listened politely and then ignored her. What could one human do? He was surrounded by guards. He was watched every moment. He had no weapons, no allies, no resources. He was a curiosity, nothing more. Do-Hyun knew they were watching him. He knew they were recording his every word and action. He did not care. He had been trained to operate under surveillance. He had been trained to wait. Every day, he learned more. He memorized patrol schedules. He studied the layout of the facility. He identified which guards were lazy and which were alert. He noted which scientists liked to talk too much and which kept secrets. He was not planning an escape. Not yet. First, he needed to understand his enemy completely. He needed to know their strengths and weaknesses. He needed to learn how the galaxy worked. The aliens thought they were studying him. In truth, he was studying them. On the anniversary of his awakening, Velith brought him a small gift, a book about Earth's history written by alien scholars. It was full of errors and misunderstandings, but Do-Hyun thanked her sincerely. That night, alone in his room, he read the book from beginning to end. He noted every mistake the aliens had made in their analysis of humanity. He saw how they had simplified human history, how they had missed the complexity of human nature. They thought humans were simple creatures driven by violence and fear. They did not understand that humans could also love and sacrifice and hope. They did not understand that a single human, with enough time and determination, could move mountains. Do-Hyun closed the book and looked out at the stars again. 300 years, he whispered to himself. You had 300 years to forget us. You forgot that we do not give up. You forgot that we do not forgive. You forgot that we always find a way. He lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be another day of learning, another day of patience, another day of preparation. The galaxy thought the human problem was solved. The galaxy was wrong. Do-hyun escaped on a quiet night when the guards were changing shifts. He did not kill anyone. That would have been easy, but it would have been a mistake. Dead bodies meant investigations. Dead bodies meant a galaxy-wide hunt. Instead, he used what he had learned in 2 years of watching. He drugged the evening guard's drink. He hacked the door lock using codes he had memorized from watching scientists enter their passwords. He slipped through the maintenance tunnels that the cleaning robots used. He stole a worker's uniform from a storage room. By morning, he was on a transport ship leaving the moon. By the time the aliens discovered his empty room, he was already 3 star systems away. The Concordat was embarrassed and angry. They searched for him, but the galaxy was vast, and Do-hyun had learned how to disappear. He moved through the criminal underworld, taking jobs that paid in cash and asked no questions. He worked as a cargo loader, a mechanic, a cleaner. He fought in underground fighting pits where aliens bet on violent matches. The aliens who watched him fight were amazed. Humans, they discovered, were stronger than they looked, faster than they expected, and they had a quality that no other species possessed. They could take damage that should have killed them and keep fighting. They could push through pain that would make others surrender. Do-hyun won every fight. He took his winnings and kept moving. For 2 years, he built a network. He found smugglers who would transport anything for the right price. He found hackers who could break into Concordat systems. He found information brokers who sold secrets, and he searched for something specific. The bunker where they found him was not unique. Before the Great Call, the human governments had prepared for the worst. They had built hidden vaults on moons and asteroids and abandoned stations. They had filled these vaults with cryopods and supplies. They had hoped that some humans would survive, even if Earth fell. Most of these vaults had been found and destroyed. But most was not all. Do-hyun followed rumors and fragments of old data. He bribed officials. He hacked databases. He traveled to the forgotten corners of the galaxy, places where no one had any reason to go. On a frozen moon in the outer reaches, he found a vault hidden under the ice. The power systems had failed long ago, but the cold had preserved the pods. 47 humans slept inside. Do-hyun worked for 3 weeks to restore power. One by one, the pods came back to life. 47 humans woke up. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, teachers, and ordinary people who had been in the wrong place at the right time. They were confused and scared, but Do-hyun was there to explain. Humanity is not dead, he told them. We are still here, and we are going to survive. Among the survivors was a woman named Yoon So-mi. She had been a lieutenant in the Korean Naval Intelligence before the call. She was smart, cunning, and had a talent for reading people. When she heard what had happened to humanity, her first question was not about grief or revenge. What resources do we have? She asked. Do-hyun smiled. He knew immediately that she would be valuable. He kept searching. On an abandoned station near a dying star, he found 12 more survivors. In the ruins of old Mars, he found 23 more. Each group was small, but each group added skills and knowledge. Dr. Bae Jae-won was a geneticist who had been frozen during the early days of the call. She understood human biology better than anyone alive. When she learned about the virus that had killed her species, she immediately began working on countermeasures. Never again, she swore. Never again would humans be vulnerable to biological warfare. Chief Petty Officer Kang Tae-ho was an engineer who could build anything from scraps. He looked at alien technology with hungry eyes, already imagining how to take it apart and make it better. Their machines are good, he told Do-hyun. Ours will be better. The survivors numbered fewer than 200. Against a galactic civilization of trillions, they were nothing. A rounding error. A joke, But Doyun knew something the aliens had forgotten. Humans did not need to outnumber their enemies. They needed to outthink them. He gathered his people on a hidden asteroid base that Taiho had repaired. For the first time in 300 years, humans sat together and talked about the future. "We cannot fight the Concordat directly," Dohyun said. "Not yet. We do not have the ships or the weapons or the numbers. But we can prepare. We can learn. We can build." Somi stood beside him. "And we can make allies. The Concordat rules the galaxy, but they are not loved. There are species who remember when they were conquered. There are peoples who want freedom. We can use that." Ji-Wan nodded. "I need time to develop defenses against biological weapons. If they try another virus, we must be ready." Taiho grinned. "Give me their technology, and I will turn it against them. Their security systems have weaknesses. Their ships have flaws. I can exploit them all." Dohyun looked at his small group of survivors. They were scared. They were angry. They were grieving for a world they would never see again. But they were also determined. "The galaxy thinks we are extinct," he said. "That is our greatest advantage. They will not see us coming until it is too late." Over the next year, the humans began to build. Taiho constructed weapons from salvaged parts. Ji-Wan worked on genetic research in a small laboratory. Somi established intelligence networks, finding aliens who were willing to share information for money or favors. And Dohyun planned. He studied the Concordat's military structure. He analyzed their politics. He identified their weaknesses and their fears. The aliens had made a mistake 300 years ago. They had tried to destroy humanity and thought they had succeeded. But they had only made humanity stronger. They had burned away everything soft and weak. What remained was pure survival instinct. Park Do-hyun looked at his 200 survivors and saw an army waiting to be born. The galaxy would remember the name of humanity. He would make sure of it. The attacks began slowly. A supply convoy disappeared near the outer reaches. The Concordat blamed pirates. A military outpost went silent for 6 hours before communications were restored. "Equipment malfunction," the report said. A corrupt official was found dead in his office. Evidence of his crimes displayed on every screen in the building. Each incident seemed unconnected. Random acts of violence in a galaxy that had plenty of violence. The Concordat did not see the pattern, but Veleth saw it. She had never stopped looking for Dohyun. After his escape, she had requested a transfer to security services. She spent her days reading reports, searching for any sign of the vanished human. Most of her colleagues thought she was obsessed with a ghost. They told her to move on. There was only one human, and he was probably dead by now. Veleth knew better. She studied the attacks. She noticed that each one happened in a different system, but they all targeted the same types of resources: fuel, weapons, medical supplies. She noticed that the timing was always perfect, as if someone knew exactly when the guards would be weakest. She brought her findings to the Concordat Council. "The human is not alone," she told them. "He has found others. He is building something." The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Vellani High Commander clicked his mandibles with impatience. "Impossible." The call was complete. "We made certain of it." "Then explain the attacks," Veleth said. "Explain the pattern. Explain how one escaped prisoner could do all this." The Shard Collective representative, a being of glowing blue crystal, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "Perhaps there are other survivors. The cryovaults were scattered. Some may have been missed. Then we must find them," the Vellani commander said. "We must finish what our ancestors started." The Morith Elder raised a tentacle for silence. Her species had never been comfortable with the Great Call. They were scholars and diplomats, not warriors. Many Morith still felt shame about their role in humanity's destruction. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "we should consider another approach. If there are surviving humans, perhaps we could negotiate. Offer them peace. Integration into galactic society." The Villani commander's eyes flashed with anger. "You would welcome the vermin back? After what they were? After what they would have become?" "I would prevent another war," the Morith elder said. "The humans were dangerous because we pushed them into a corner. We gave them no choice but to fight. Perhaps if we offer them a place, they will accept peace." The debate continued for hours, but no decision was made. The council was divided, as it always was. While they argued about philosophy and history, Dohan's network grew stronger. Somi had established contacts throughout the galaxy. She found species who had been conquered by the Concordat generations ago. She found workers who were treated like slaves. She found merchants who were crushed by unfair taxes. These people did not love humans, but they hated the Concordat. And the enemy of their enemy was their friend. Ji-Wan worked in her hidden laboratory, developing countermeasures against biological attacks. She also worked on something else, something that would give humans an edge in any future conflict. Her research was slow and careful, but the results would be worth the wait. Taiho had turned the asteroid base into a small factory. He built weapons from salvaged alien technology, improving the designs as he went. He modified ships to be faster and harder to detect. He created communication systems that the Concordat could not intercept. And Do-hyun continued to plan. He knew that eventually the Concordat would find them. Eventually, there would be a confrontation. He needed to be ready for that day. He needed to choose the time and place of the battle. 2 years after the first attack, the Concordat finally understood what they were facing. Intelligence reports confirmed the worst fears. There were surviving humans, perhaps hundreds of them. They had established bases in the uncharted regions of space. They had OIs among the dissatisfied species. They were growing stronger every day. The Villani High Commander demanded immediate action. He proposed a combined fleet of 3,000 warships to sweep through the outer reaches and destroy every human settlement they could find. The Shard Collective agreed. The Morith objected, but they were outvoted. The announcement went out across the galaxy. The Concordat declared a final solution to the human problem. All humans were to be captured or killed. Anyone who helped them would face the same fate. Do-hyun watched the announcement from his base. Somi stood beside him, her face hard. "They are coming for us," she said. "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "Exactly as I planned." She looked at him with surprise. "You wanted this?" "I wanted them to commit. 3,000 ships is most of their military strength. They are putting everything into one attack. That means one chance for them to succeed, and one chance for us to defeat them. We have less than 50 ships. How can we fight 3,000? Do-hyun smiled. It was not a warm smile. "We do not fight fair. We never did." He walked to the communication center of the base. Taiho and Ji-Wan joined him. Around them, the other human survivors watched and waited. Do-hyun activated a channel that would broadcast to every communication system in the galaxy. His face appeared on screens in every station, every ship, every home. "My name is Park Do-hyun," he said. "I am human. For 300 years, you believed my species was dead. You were wrong." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Your ancestors murdered our people. Men, women, children. Billions of lives ended because you were afraid of what we might become. You called it the Great Cull, and you celebrated it as a victory." His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "Now you announce another extermination. You send your fleets to hunt us down. You think we are weak because we are few. You think we will run and hide." Do-hyun leaned closer to the camera. You had 300 years to forget what humans are. Let me remind you. We do not run. We do not hide. We do not surrender. And we never, ever forget. He straightened. Come and find us. We will be waiting. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens watched in shock. The humans were back. And they were not afraid. The Concordat fleet launched within a week. 3,000 warships, carrying millions of soldiers, armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They expected to find a handful of desperate refugees making a last stand. They found something very different. The Concordat fleet arrived at the coordinates where human activity had been detected. The region was called the Shattered Gate, a stretch of unstable space near a neutron star. Navigation was difficult. Sensors gave false readings. Communication signals warped and scattered. The Volani admiral in command did not like the location, but his orders were clear. Destroy the humans at any cost. Scan for enemy vessels, he ordered. His officers worked their stations. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Admiral, we cannot find them. The star's radiation is interfering with our sensors. The admiral clicked his mandibles with frustration. Send scout ships ahead. Find them. The scouts launched. They spread out through the region, searching for any sign of the human base. One by one, they went silent. No distress calls. No final messages. They simply disappeared. The admiral ordered the fleet to advance in formation. 3,000 ships moved through the distorted space, weapons charged and ready. They expected an ambush. They expected traps. They did not expect what happened next up. The first wave of attacks came from inside their own ships. Sami's intelligence network had spent 2 years placing agents throughout the Concordat military. Maintenance workers who installed secret modifications. Officers who had been bribed or blackmailed. Computer specialists who inserted hidden programs. At a coordinated signal, chaos erupted. Navigation systems gave false readings. Weapons locked and refused to fire. Communication channels filled with noise. Ships that had been flying in perfect formation suddenly veered into each other. The Volani admiral screamed orders, but no one could hear him. His own flagship systems were compromised. On the main screen, he watched as his beautiful fleet began to tear itself apart. Then the second wave hit. Taiho had spent months seeding the Shattered Gate with automated weapon platforms. They were built from salvage and scraps, ugly and improvised, but deadly effective. They emerged from hiding places in asteroids and debris fields, firing on the confused Concordat ships. The Concordat vessels tried to fight back, but they could not coordinate. Their communication systems were down. Their sensors showed enemies everywhere and nowhere. Officers gave conflicting orders. Some ships tried to flee and collided with ships trying to advance. Through the chaos, a small force of human ships struck. Dahyun had only 47 vessels, but each one was modified by Taiho to be faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Concordat fleet. They moved through the battle like wolves among sheep, targeting critical ships and vanishing before any response could be organized. Jiwan's contribution came next. She had developed a chemical agent that temporarily disrupted the Volani hive mind, the neural connection that allowed the insectoid species to coordinate perfectly. When the agent was released, the Volani crews experienced something they had never felt before: individual confusion. They could not hear each other's thoughts. They could not share information instantly. They were alone in their own heads for the first time in their lives. Many of them simply stopped functioning. Others panicked. The disciplined Volani military dissolved into chaos. Dohim watched the battle from his command ship. Beside him, Somi coordinated the intelligence operations. Taiho monitored the automated weapons. Jiwan tracked the spread of her chemical agent. Their flagship is still fighting, Somi reported. The Admiral is trying to rally his forces. Doyen nodded. Then we end this personally. He led a strike team in a boarding shuttle. They cut through the flagship's hull and entered the ship. The corridors were filled with panicking Vellani soldiers, but Doyen and his team moved through them like a storm. They were human. They were faster, stronger, and more determined than any alien expected. They did not fight fair. They used tricks and traps and brutal efficiency. When they reached the command center, only a handful of Vellani remained to defend it. The Admiral faced Do-hyun with trembling mandibles. "How?" he asked. "You were supposed to be extinct. You were supposed to be nothing. You made us nothing," Do-hyun said. "You killed our families. You burned our worlds. You thought you had won." He stepped closer. "But you forgot something important. Humans do not accept extinction. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. And we remember everything." The Admiral died quickly. Do-hyun was not cruel, just efficient. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it ended, the Concordat had lost 800 ships. Their supreme military commander was dead. Their reputation for invincibility was shattered. The humans had lost 19 people. The surviving Concordat forces retreated in disorder. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. The Vellani were humiliated. The Shard Collective was shocked. The Morith quietly said, "We told you negotiation was better." And everywhere, oppressed species began to whisper. The humans had won. The Concordat could be defeated. Perhaps it was time to think about freedom. The Do-hyun broadcast one final message. We did not start this war. We were sleeping. We wanted nothing but to be left alone. You woke us. You hunted us. You tried to finish what your ancestors began. He paused. Humanity offers the following terms: recognition of our sovereignty, return of Earth and its solar system, reparations for the Great Call, payable over the next century. Accept, and we pursue peace. Refuse, and we pursue victory. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. There is no third option. The Concordat accepted within a week. They had no choice. Their fleet was broken, and rebellion was spreading through their territory. The humans had shown that the old order could be challenged. 5 years later, Do-hyun stood on the surface of Earth for the first time. The planet was damaged. The cities were ruins. The forests were dead, and the oceans were polluted. 3 centuries of alien exploitation had scarred every continent. But it was home. Somi stood beside him, now his wife. Behind them, transport ships descended from orbit, carrying the first wave of human settlers. Not just the cryo-survivors, but their children, born in exile, raised on stories of a planet they had never seen. The work ahead would take generations. They needed to clean the water and heal the land. They needed to rebuild the cities and restore the ecosystems. They needed to grow from hundreds to thousands to millions. But humans were good at rebuilding. They always had been. Velith was there too. After the war, she had resigned from the Concordat and requested permission to serve as ambassador to the new human government. She wanted to help build the peace, to make sure the mistakes of the past were not repeated. She walked up to Do-hyun and looked out at the ruined landscape. "What happens now?" she asked. Do-hyun breathed deeply. The air was thin and tasted wrong, but it was Earth's air. It was home. "We rebuild," he said. "We remember. And we make sure no one ever forgets again what happens when you underestimate humanity." Somi took his hand. In the distance, children were already running through the ruins, exploring, discovering, claiming their birthright. The galaxy had grown complacent about humans. They had assumed extinction meant the end. They had forgotten the most important truth about humanity. Humans always find a way back. And now, they were home.